You said you wanted to make that Tank fight, so hopefully we can see that in the future. Eddie?
Jake Paul, isn't he? So, he's got...
Yo, Gervonta Davis will be fighting Jake Paul this year, November.
You know, we know that Gervonta's going to fight Jake Paul in November.
Yeah, so it's happening. Eddie Hearn's confirmed it, my people.
This is my call out. Jake Paul, what up?
Eddie Hearn has confirmed that talks are underway for a potential showdown between Jake Paul and Gervonta Tank Davis, targeted for November 2025.
Gervonta Davis just posted that he would beat the brakes off of you if you guys fight.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be down. Let's run it. Like, I'll be super, super down. I don't know if
Gervonta needs Jake Paul. Let's be clear, right?
This news has sent shockwaves through both the boxing world and mainstream media because it's a matchup no one ever really expected a YouTuber-turned-fighter versus a multiple-weight world champion and one of the most feared punchers in the sport today.
Is there a height limit in boxing?
Jake Paul's rise to prominence in boxing has been unconventional but undeniably effective. Starting off as an internet sensation, Jake leveraged his massive social media following into a legitimate boxing career. After early fights against fellow YouTubers, he moved into more serious competition, facing former MMA champions and actual strikers like Tyron Woodley and Anderson Silva.
Jake Paul is the biggest boxer in male boxing. Amanda Serrano is the biggest boxer in female boxing. These two are the faces of boxing from my perspective. That's why every single fighter is calling them out. And that's why when they do the trilogy, it's going to be one of the biggest events that's ever happened across all sports. 75 million people watched Amanda Serrano endure a headbutt with a massive cut on her eye and fight through it. So every girl, young lady, and woman is going to have a stake when that trilogy happens. Thank you, guys.
His record, as of now, stands at 9 wins and 1 loss, his only defeat coming in a controversial split decision against Tommy Fury, a professional boxer and half-brother of Tyson Fury. Jake bounced back after the Fury loss by defeating Andre August, showing marked improvements in his technical skills, footwork, and ring IQ. On the other side, Gervonta Davis is already a superstar within the traditional boxing world.
Davis, he was a young kid, came up to me when he was a kid, wanted an autograph. I signed his phone for him and told him, "You'll be world champion someday, and I'll be your promoter." Years later, he was working with some people from our team because our team is huge. We got guys in DC, Baltimore, Philly, New York, all around. He won a few fights. I think he was like 8 or 9-0. I told him, in under 24 months, you'll be world champion. Made the right moves, put him in the right position. He's a multi-millionaire now.
Absolutely.
He was a kid that couldn't even buy a bus ticket. Now he's a multi-millionaire.
Nicknamed Tank, Davis boasts an undefeated professional record of 30 wins, 0 losses, with 28 knockouts, a staggering knockout percentage that highlights his devastating power. He has conquered divisions from super featherweight to lightweight, capturing titles in multiple weight classes. His most recent high-profile victory came against Ryan Garcia in April 2023, where Davis delivered a brutal body shot KO that left no doubts about his elite status. The size difference between Jake Paul and Gervonta Davis will be one of the biggest talking points leading into this fight.
Your thoughts, is Jake Paul someone you'd want to take on at one point?
Yeah, tell him, this is my call out. Jake Paul, what up? What up, Jake Paul?
There's the call.
Jake Paul typically fights around 190 pounds cruiserweight territory, whereas Gervonta Davis operates at lightweight, around 135 pounds. That's a massive gap. Early reports suggest that Jake would agree to a significant weight cut to meet Gervonta somewhere in the middle, possibly at a catchweight of around 165 to 170 pounds, though nothing official has been set yet. For Davis, it would mean moving up 2 or even 3 weight classes, which would be a monumental challenge for a fighter who stands just 5 feet 5 inches tall with a 67-inch reach compared to Jake's 6 feet 1 frame and 76-inch reach. But why would Gervonta Davis even entertain such a risky fight?
Who was the first celebrity you fight? Jake. That only makes sense.
Yeah, I fight him for that money.
What would the clause be? How would you make this work? Like he had to weigh a certain amount because the nigga like 2 something.
Get him like one.
190, 98, 200.
The answer is simple money. Jake Paul's fights generate insane pay-per-view numbers and buzz even higher than some traditional championship fights. Facing Jake Paul could net Davis his biggest payday yet, possibly even eclipsing what he made against Ryan Garcia, which was already a career-high seven-figure purse. Stylistically, the fight would be fascinating. Jake Paul has shown he has real power in his right hand, and his boxing fundamentals are improving under the guidance of coaches like BJ Flores and now former world champion Shane Mosley. However, he still carries flaws, moments of stiffness, issues with stamina over longer fights, and defensive lapses.
What do you want next? Yeah, there's a long list of names, man, but it's funny, like, I've said this before in boxing, and it holds true, but boxers don't like boxing. They don't want to sign the contract. So we'll see what happens, but at the end of the day, I'm just going to keep on training and staying in the gym, but we do have an announcement next week, but I'm just not going to leak anything, and, like, we've had these fights pulled twice now at the 1 yard line, Canelo, Gervonta, so I'm just not going to jinx it and say anything.
Gervonta Davis, in contrast, is a calculated, patient fighter with explosive speed and knockout power. Tank is known for setting traps, luring his opponents into mistakes, and then unleashing devastating counters. Even though he'd be the smaller man by far, his timing, movement, and experience against high-level competition could make him a nightmare for Jake Paul, especially if Jake underestimates him. Eddie Hearn himself weighed in, expressing both excitement and skepticism. He praised Jake Paul for being willing to take risks, but warned that Gervonta Davis would be by far the most dangerous opponent Jake has ever faced. In Hearn's own words, Jake's smart with his matchmaking, but Tank Davis is another level. If this fight happens, it would be must-watch chaos. Massive money, but a massive risk for Jake. Another key aspect that makes this fight intriguing is the battle for legitimacy.
With Gervonta saying to the bozo that shared the ring with Mike, "You a whole bozo for this, and you didn't get the job done."
Jake Paul has long fought against the label of celebrity boxer, arguing that he deserves to be recognized among real fighters. Facing Gervonta Davis and winning would instantly legitimize his career in a way that no amount of wins over former UFC fighters ever could. It would cement him not just as a novelty, but as a true threat in the sport of boxing. For Gervonta Davis, this fight is an opportunity to cross over into mainstream stardom.
But me and Gervonta were scheduled to fight for sure.
How real or what was to it with you and Tank actually being a thing? Was that something that was talked about?
Yeah, no, it was highly talked about and in negotiations and almost ready to make happen, but he has to do his rematch with Lamont and get that W, and then we'll be able to run it back. But me and Gervonta were scheduled to fight for sure.
Despite being a boxing superstar, Tank has yet to reach casual fans in the way that crossover figures like Mike Tyson or Floyd Mayweather once did. A fight and a win over someone with Jake Paul's global fan base could catapult Davis into a whole new stratosphere of fame, endorsement deals, and media attention.
When is Gervonta Davis going to go somewhere in the pound for pound? Hanui deserve to be in the pound for pound? Absolutely. Do Terence Crawford deserve to be in the pound for pound? Absolutely. But what about Gervonta Davis? I mean, he deserves to be somewhere also in the pound for pound.
Why don't they give him that credit?
Because he was affiliated with me.
The possible fight location is another hot topic. Sources close to the negotiations suggest Las Vegas is the frontrunner, likely at a massive venue like the T-Mobile Arena or even Allegiant Stadium if the demand is high enough. However, there's also been early chatter about Miami or even Madison Square Garden in New York, both cities where Jake Paul has fought and drawn huge crowds in the past. Fight promotion is expected to be absolutely insane. Jake Paul is a marketing genius who understands viral content, memes, and how to build hype better than anyone.
I'm going to start like this. First of all, if you're a boxer and you're not taking note or notice of what Jake Paul is doing, you're worried about criticizing his boxing skills, then you're the fool because he made $40 million last year. Nope. Do I need to say anything? Mic drop. So actually, you should pay attention to what the hell he's doing outside of the ring. You understand me? Then if you better yourself inside the ring and use what he's teaching you outside the ring, then you probably can do what he's doing. because he's doing a hell of a job of teaching you guys how to use social media to up your grade. You understand? If you don't take that lesson, then you're crazy. Second,
pair that with Gervonta Davis's no-nonsense attitude and knockout highlight reels, and this fight could end up being one of the most talked-about events of the entire year. Not just in boxing, but in all of sports entertainment. Bookmakers are already speculating on early betting odds. Most odds makers would likely install Gervonta Davis as a heavy favorite because of his superior boxing skill, experience, and power. However, the size difference can't be overlooked if Jake can use his jab effectively, keep Davis at bay, and turn it into more of a tactical fight rather than a brawl. He could find openings and create a real upset. Another layer to the story is the potential impact on future boxing trends. If Jake Paul versus Gervonta Davis becomes a massive financial success, it could open the door to more crossover super fights, blurring the line even further between traditional boxers, influencers, and MMA stars.
he has done much better with his skills. His skill level is definitely increasing, and I see it from fight to fight. And I love what I'm seeing. Love the fact that he's dedicated himself to learning the sport of boxing.
It could accelerate a trend where big fights are determined not just by rankings, but by personalities, fan bases, and hype. Training camps for this type of fight would also be critical. Jake Paul would likely have to take training even more seriously than ever before, potentially bringing in elite sparring partners, maybe even world champions, to prepare for Tank's explosive speed and angles. For Davis, bulking up to a new weight division without sacrificing speed or stamina would be a major challenge requiring specialized strength and conditioning coaching. Public reaction to the news has been wild. Some fans are thrilled at the idea of this chaotic, unpredictable clash, while purists are already criticizing it as another circus event, diluting the sport of boxing.
Yeah, so it's happening. Eddie Hearn's confirmed it, my people, from Match.
You know, we know that Gervonta's going to fight Jake Paul in November.
I had to slow it down so y'all can hear it clearly, my people. We get in that fight of Jake Paul versus Gervonta Davis in November 2025. It was originally supposed to happen before the Lamont Roach rematch, but things got spicy, so they had to make the rematch happen first, and they delayed this fight, my people, because there was in contracts already, low-key. They wasn't telling nobody. But you know, some people, some of us knew, you know what I mean? So now that fight is happening in November. The rematch supposed to happen in July, August, my people. It's pretty close to be fighting back to back. But yo, there's money on the line right now. We got MVP with Jake Paul putting a lot of money, and we got Turkey Al-Sheikh putting a lot of money. So whoever's involved in this, I know there's money to be made, so they ready to fight 3 months apart. You feel me?
Social media exploded within hours of Eddie Hearn's confirmation, with hashtags like Jake Paul vs Tank and Keyshawn Paul Davis fight trending worldwide. And it doesn't stop there depending on the outcome. The future stakes are massive. If Jake Paul wins, he could potentially call out even bigger names, maybe even Canelo Alvarez, whom he's teased wanting to fight someday. If Davis wins, he further solidifies his brand as boxing's boogeyman, the smaller fighter who conquers giants. Either way, this is shaping up to be an event unlike anything we've seen in recent years, a true clash of cultures, styles, and fan bases that could redefine the future of boxing promotion as we know it.